Council meeting May 4th, 2021 is called to order. Would stand and have Kathy McDowell do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Dawn,
Yep.
do roll call, please.
I will. Councilmember Inesco,
Here.
Councilmember McDowell,
Here,
Deputy Mayor Peterson,
Here.
Councilmember Feast,
Here.
Councilmember Schmidt,
Here.
Councilmember Bode.
Here.
And Mayor Dorsey.
Here. All right, does council have any late changes to the agenda tonight? If not, doesn't look like it. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple of things I'd like to mention, if that's okay.
Okay. Yep.
We did originally advertise ordinance 1961-1220, and that has to do with cleaning up the language for B&O taxes in our code and utility taxes, and just making sure there's some clarity surrounding that issue in the language. We had that advertised tonight initially, and want to continue that date certain to our next meeting on May 18th. And then the other item is item F1 on your agenda this evening. That's the public hearing for ordinance number 1969-0321. After some discussion with council and community stakeholders, we would like to table that and continue it again on May 18th for the public hearing on the business agenda for that evening with council's approval.
I'm good with that.
I'm
Yep,
good with that.
fine.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, let's move on. At this time, I would like to remind the members of the public that they can make comments during the public comment period, as well on any items listed on the business agenda or the action agenda. When making a public comment, you will need to raise your hand electronically in the Zoom app, state your full name and whether you reside within the city limits, within Mason County, or elsewhere. Option number 1, join the Zoom meeting by clicking on the link that is displayed on the city's webpage. The link is listed on the agendas and minutes page under the tab that says more. Option 2, email City Manager Jeff Knighton. Option 3, call Jeff's office phone. Both the email address and phone number are displayed on the screen of Mason Web TV's streaming video. All right. Anybody have a council board report to give? Okay. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as published?
I move to approve the consent agenda as published.
Thank you, Eric.
Second.
And we have a second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. All right. We have several presentations this evening. First on the list is a proclamation declaring Public Works Week. And I will read that to you again. All right. National Public Works Week Proclamation is entitled Stronger Together. Whereas the public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Shelton. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, building public buildings and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Shelton to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and ongoing understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, be it now. Be it now resolved, I, Mayor Kevin Dorsey, do hereby designate the week of May 16th through May 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join the representatives of the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, and government agencies in activities and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Signed this 4th day of May, 2021 in Shelton, Washington. All right. Let's move on to Finance Director Aaron B. Miller is going to share the monthly finance status report.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. Aaron B. Miller with the Finance Department. I'll share my screen in just a second, but just to put a little bit of groundwork before I do that. This is a new monthly report that we have started, and it's best practice to provide council with financial information monthly. And so we want to start doing that. I'm going to just kind of kick us off here and give a little bit of an introduction, and then I'll hand the baton over to Don Quizme in our finance department. He's really the one that did the lion's share of work on this. It's a nice looking report. He'll go through and from 5,000 feet, 10,000 feet, just kind of walk you through what the tables are doing, what we're trying to compare. I will give a little bit of forewarning that this is new, so our estimates will be a work in progress until we lock down how we want to show those each month. And also bear in mind that this is the January month-end report, so there will be a lot of changes, especially in the estimate column between now and the end of the year. Presumably as we gain more traction and we go throughout the year, we will have more opportunity to see what's been happening and be able to put better estimates together. But it is just the January numbers. We're presenting this today, and we're happy to present the monthly reports as much as council would like until you're comfortable with it. But ultimately, I think at some point, we're planning on just providing this as part of the consent agenda. And then if council has particular questions, we're happy to go through and answer those. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully everybody sees the monthly report in front of them. So again, this is our new report. A lot of what you'll see are comparisons between the 2021 budget, our 2021 actuals through January, and then our estimates based on those actuals. Each page then, well, I shouldn't say each page, in several pages, there will be language to kind of help describe what we see that we think might be important to provide to the council. So just looking at this top section, and just looking at the revenues, for instance, you would look at that and go across and you'd see the 2021 budget number, the actual revenues that we've collected through January, the estimate that we have, the estimated actual, the variance between favorable and unfavorable. So if it's unfavorable, it will have parentheses around it. And then the variance to budget. As you can see here, we started with a fund balance of about $4.85 million this year in the general fund. Right now, our estimates are that that would increase by about 1.6 million up to about 6.5. We don't know if that will happen. We're going to keep reiterating that these are January numbers. Things will change over time. And there is some conversation about how that fund balance will get used. We're not going to go into it much this particular meeting. And then we provide some summary information. Again, really high level information, just things that we want you to be aware of. And then at the bottom of this page, you can see that 16% of our policy is that general fund be 16% of our current year budget expenditures. That would be about almost $2 million. And so you can see we're well over that number. So just wanted to touch base on the fund balance a little bit because I think that that's usually a hot topic. And with that, I'm going to be running because we're in different areas, I'll be sliding through the report. And so hopefully Don and I will be able to stay in sync. But with that, Don, I'll let you take over.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Make sure before I start talking. Yes, as Aaron was saying, this is a new report. We hope it is useful, and with just 1 month of data, it's really hard to make very accurate estimates, but we did what we can. And at the bottom of these different charts, I have some different notes, like just at the bottom of the revenues, I did put how we originally did the estimate for our annual estimate is our year to date. In this case, it was just January, divided by the number of months, which of course is just 1 at this point, and then times 12. So in the future months, we'll have 2 months, 3 months, and so on. So that'll give us our kind of a base to start with. And then any infrequent revenues or expenses we'll adjust for payments and that are received or payments we make that are either quarterly or annually, and we probably have some that are like twice a year. So not a lot of our items go month by month. Wages and benefits will always go month by month. We have to keep paying our staff, so that always will be in place, but some of the other ones will kind of fluctuate with when they happen. And we also have a variance note, which when Aaron and I met today, we'll adjust it a little bit, that we're looking at differences of, it'll be at least 10% and 75,000, where on this I have it listed as 10% or 75,000. So those would be kind of our guidelines to start with anyway, to what we want to address and kind of dig into more variances. With just January, it was really, there's so many variances with just 1 month that there's some line items that didn't have any activity yet. So it really, we didn't really do a deep dive in this January report. When we have more history, it'll be easier to dig in a little deeper on it. And then that chart at the pie graph and shows the breakdown, and this is our estimated general fund revenues. So it's showing them by type with percent, not the dollar amount, but by, so it shows a breakdown of where our revenue is coming from and as the estimate for the year. And as me and Aaron met today, I noticed that these sheets work best probably looking at the whole page. So when we're rolling through them, sometimes you don't see the heading anymore. But if you look at the whole page, then you'll see headings there at the top. So then on expenditures, these first pages are all general fund. It has a breakdown of expenditures by our departments, and then showing the 2021 budget, our year-to-date January, and our estimated actual, and then showing any variances that we have up to that point just based on that 1 month. And rolling down here, this chart, this pie graph at the bottom is showing the breakdown of 5% of our main categories of expenses that we have it summarized in. So the wages, benefits, professional services, transfers, and all others in the final category. So then on page 4, I believe I'm looking at the same page that Aaron has up here. City clerk, we had made changes in 2021 where they became their own department as far as following budget. So the history isn't complete because for the history of city clerk, they just had in these amounts is just what was for records, elections, and code revision costs. So when you look at a report like this, it looks a little bit strange because 2021 is such a large amount compared to the other years. But I'll continue to have that note on there to remind us, because it reminds myself also saying, okay, that's right. That is correct. That is what our data is. And this shows both revenues and expenditures together on this page, and the net revenues and expenditures at the bottom to show the change for the year. And so then on the next page, we're doing a month-to-month comparison for 2019, 2020, and 2021. So this is based on what actually took place. And this is another area that like the property taxes kind of jumps out right at the top, is when taxes or anything comes in a little bit differently, and if it hit January versus February, it's going to kind of throw us off, or looks like it's off. But if questions come up on things like that, we can always research them farther to explain, saying here's what took place, and it can be 1 day difference in it to be in a different month than it was in a prior year. And then we're doing a comparison of variance of between 2021 to 2020, both by dollar amount and by percentage. And the final column is a percentage of our budget. On this page, I don't have the budget listed, but I'm comparing it to the budget in that final column. And at the bottom of this page, I just have a little note saying that we're reporting through January, and that January is 8.3% of the year. So like if you're looking at total expenditures showing at 9.4, and we're at 8.3% of the year, that's a reasonable amount. It's, we have some lines higher and some lower, but it looks reasonable at that point. And then on the top of this next page is a breakdown of our sales tax by percent. So the first pie graph is 2020, and it breaks it down by our different sales taxes. And then the second chart it'll actually was through January 2021. And so in future months, I'll title that saying through February, through March, and so on. And then the percent breakdown. So it's a way to compare current year to 2020 by breakdown of our sales taxes. And then the bottom of that page is a summary of tracking our fund balance and their changes. And this might look, some things maybe look a little bit off, and but we did budget for spending down in some of the funds. So when I was re-looking at this, I thought it might be useful to go look back at the budget book sometimes to see if that might explain where, looking at this report, it looks like we're really going down in some of the fund balances. But if that's what we budgeted, then we are on schedule, and it looks like at this point that we are in line with our budget. So we had budgeted for all funds to actually have a spend down of 4.8 million. And up to this point, we're at showing 2.4 million of spending down our fund balance. Then on these following pages, it's going to list all funds, including general fund, now in a little bit more of a summary for revenues and then expenses. So each fund will have those same revenue and expenditure categories to compare it. And then we're just looking at 2021 data at this point, the budget through January, our estimate for the year, and then our variances for favorable and unfavorable, and then showing the net of revenues and expenditures. So then if we look a little closer, like at street, then they have some of the same revenues as general funds. Some of these funds won't have all the different revenues, so their reports will be shorter. But on the expenditure side, departments that have personnel, there'll always be wages and benefits costs, and then we'll show professional services, transfers out, and then other is the current breakdown that we're going to use for our expenses. So then these would be going fund by fund, so street to capital resource, and it covers 3 different pages of kind of the same format going by each fund. And then for things that really kind of jump out at us, we'll make notes within them. So there's a couple different notes I made this time, like in the firefighters, saying that we don't, at this point, we haven't made an estimate that we would need to make a transfer in from general fund to the firefighters pension fund. So that'll help us track things that we, if that continues to be, I'll leave that note there in future months reports. And if it changes, then we'll adjust it as we need to note what has been taking place. And hopefully I kind of covered that in a kind of a quick overview. And I hope this part will be helpful. And it's kind of a little bit late now since it's January, but the February one, we're getting fairly close to having that one ready. So that one will be to the council in the near future.
So great, thanks, Don. And I just want to add one other thing as we're looking at this, and just using the street fund as an example, since we used that earlier. On in these columns, again, if you're looking at the whole page, you can see the headers, but this column is what we budgeted. And so you can see that we budgeted a use of fund balance of $632,000 in 2021. This is where we are to date. And then this column is our estimate. So you can see that we've budgeted to use 632,000, but right now we're estimating that we're going to use 438. And so really kind of that's maybe something to look at as you gauge this, like, okay, where are we? Boy, we're at 438 over. Well, we budgeted to spend 632. And you know, and then those questions can be asked of what's kind of changing here. So again, we hope this report, as Don said, we hope this report is useful. We'll continue to tweak it as we go through it. And unless there are specific questions, we can. I can take this off the share screen.
Anyone have the questions for Dawn or Aaron?
I don't have a question, but just a big thank you. This is something that we have been begging city staff to give us more frequent reporting in a very detailed way that gives a great synopsis. And I think it's obvious looking at this, y'all have put a lot of time into creating something that gives a really good overview, gives us some good data to look at, and a way to measure and make sure that we're being transparent about how we're stewarding the public's funds. So I just want to thank all of you for your efforts. I'm sure we'll have some additional work to do along the way, but this is an incredible step, and I really appreciate all of the hard work that's gone into this.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Of course, you know, I look through all these and boom, the city council, of course, jumps out at me. Can you explain what makes up those numbers? What makes up the $18,803?
Yes, you are looking at the expenditure page. 18,000. Which page were you on, if I can ask?
Just a minute. It is page 5.
Oh,
Right there, right there.
Right there. So
Right there.
you're looking at the January 2019 for the 18,000. So this is going to be really salaries and benefits for the most part, maybe some professional services. and what we would be looking at is in January 2019, we spent 18.8. In January of 20, it was 21.7. So far this year, it's 16,752. So we could go back and do some more research, but how this report kind of holds together then is you can see that right now we spent 16,752, and most of that is going to be salaries and wages at this point, and any contracts that might be out there. But that would be a question that we'd have to look at a little bit more. But that's
Does that include any conferences, training, and all that?
Probably not, because this is a January to January report, and unless we unless we made plans to go in January of one of these years and then registered at that point in time. So it possibly could, but we don't know just by looking at this.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone else? Deidre, you up? Yeah.
Just one follow-up. And we've talked about this in our city briefings, of course, but one of the reasons that this is behind in real time has to do with the state reporting to the city on certain revenues. And so that's why we're seeing that 2-month lag. It's not that the city isn't keeping up on our finances. It's simply a matter of when we're seeing those monies come through. Is correct?
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. I meant to mention that in the introduction. So these reports will always be a 2-month lag. We're behind now because we're just starting to gear up from that. But if you think about it, like the May numbers, or let me say the April numbers, because we just finished April, that April month end will really close mid-May. And then in mid-May, we'll start putting this together. It won't be done in time to make the council packet for the first meeting in June because of the deadlines we have on that. So really, it would then be in the council packet for the second meeting in June. And that's just simply a function of the time it takes to close the books, to make sure we have everything accounted for in that month, and then to put this information together and then meet timelines for council packet. So it's, to your point, yes, it's not that we're resting on our laurels. It just takes time to be able to put this information together in this way. I would say similar to how we get the sales tax. We've talked about sales tax a lot being a 2-month lag between the time that it's earned and the time that then we get it from the state for the very similar reasons.
All right. Thank you, Aaron and Don.
Thank you. Well done.
All right, we ready to move on? I think so. Our last presentation is a local road safety plan. City engineer Ken Gill has the details for us. There he is. Hi, Ken.
Good evening, council members. It's good to see you out in Zoomville. I'm going to zip through this presentation quick because I want to go join Mayor Dorsey at the beach. So. Okay, I don't think you're seeing the right slideshow that I want you to. I think you're seeing my presentation. Let's try this one more time. There we go. Okay, so local road safety plan. This is a first for Shelton. Some of our other cities in the state of Washington have written one. And what this is a program that WashDOT has that allows cities to look at their crash data and come up with countermeasures so that those crash data won't happen. And they also have a funding source. So I'm going to zip right through it here. Let's go. Unfortunately in Shelton, we've got lots of accidents. This is First and Pine. So this is the same intersection. And whenever Keith is out there with his fire truck, that's not a good thing. So the traffic engineer that's in every one of you bursting, ready to get out, ask yourself, what's the solution? Is it roundabouts at every intersection? Or is it we hire Councilmember Schmidt's maintenance peers to put fancy rumble strips at each of our, down the center of our roads? What do we do? So, but the bottom line is that the data is showing that as time goes on, the amount of fatal and suspected injury crashes where people get hurt seriously or die is kind of trending up. So in 2020, it went up for our counties. So the green line is us. That's all cities statewide. So by year. So WashDOT gives us some guidance on how to come up with these plans. I'm not going to talk about every step, but I will talk about present back to you the last one, which is where we present you some projects and priority ones in which we think should go first to make Shelton safer. Hoquiam did this last year. They identified a lot of pedestrian, bike, car near misses and came up with a lot of flashing beacons, similar to one that we have next to Blondie's there on Railroad Avenue, and are beginning to implement those. So I'm grateful is that the WashDOT has some dedicated funding. It's gas tax funding for cities. It's a fairly large amount. It's just available for cities. And the county has their own separate. This is a chart, just the A's to the K's, cities in the state of Washington, the type of projects that they did, and the award amounts that they had last year. So these are federal funds, so they require a match. It's for every 13.5%. I think of it at about every $1.35 that you put in, you get $8.65 back from the feds. So we've selected Shakar Jewel from our on-call list to put together scope and budget. It's in Jeff's signature authority. He signed it today. They expect to start next week, and then we'll present this back to you end of August. So the whole goal is to have an application in for this program in the fall. So that's all I had to present to you tonight. And if you have any questions, I am happy to answer any one of them.
Excuse me, this is Eric Onisco. Are we going to have our own crash data?
We'll use data that, imagine if you get into a wreck in Shelton, you fill out a collision report that goes to the state compiles all that, and then we'll send it back to everything that's in Shelton.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, there's the other report you said was all cities in the state.
The previous slide I showed was all cities across the statewide, to showing how fatal and serious injuries are on the rise. So.
Ken, I had a comment. I've had a couple people come up to me in the last, I don't know, month or so and ask about putting in one of those crosswalk lights like at, what is that, Railroad and 6th?
Mm-hmm.
Down, farther on down.
4th?
Like 3rd or 4th.
Yeah.
And, of course, I didn't know the cost of those things, but I just wanted to share it tonight, really, and keep it in the back of our minds, I guess. People are having a hard time crossing across Railroad with, especially the older people that want to go over to the, what's that Saturday shopping thing down there?
Farmers market.
Farmers market, or things like, or the post office or whatever. They park on one side of the street and they can't get across very well. So seems like a lot of our drivers might need a little education on how to stop for pedestrians. So anyway, all right.
I think,
I have, since you brought that up, I haven't brought it up for about a year, but the
Oh, I
Oakland
knew
Bay,
what you were gonna say.
the Oakland Bay Junior High, where kids dodge cars. I mean, school, obviously there's no school at the moment. Well, I guess there is now, but I've sat out there and I have videos of kids almost getting hit. 1 in every 5 kids crossing that road, and we definitely need to do something up there.
so I think it speaks to both the mayor's point and Councilmember Anisco's point that doing this plan and spending the money to do this plan will make us eligible for funding that we have not been eligible for in the past.
Mhm.
And that's what we want to get completed when the grant application window opens. So something we're taking the steps to be eligible to take advantage of some of those funds.
Right.
Mayor Dorsey, Councilmember Feast has had her hand raised. She's
Oh, I'm
waiting
sorry,
behind
Megan.
her. You probably can't see her.
Go ahead, Megan. You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm mute.
There you go.
You think we'd learn by now, right?
Well,
Yeah.
me too.
Jeff pretty well just answered my question around what is our experience with going after these funds? You know, what is the return, our experience, return on investment of doing the plan? And then in your, you know, subject matter expertise space and your experience, Jeff, and Ken, you know, if we put ourselves out there and we put the plan together, you know, what do we look, you know, what are our chances? I mean, I know it's a crapshoot, as they say, and you know, do we have kind of a guesstimation of what we can receive?
I think we'll have a better idea after we get the projects set up. What Ken mentioned when he will bring those back to you. We'll have a better idea of what our chances are. But the other thing I want to mention in conjunction with this, it's we are going after different forms of funds. So Ken has been gracious enough to take on the role at the PRPTO, which is another funding source that we have not participated in the past. But we are at the table now, and hopefully we'll have some funding available through that source. These sources as well that Ken is talking about tonight, along with potential federal sources. We submitted a grant for Western Gateway through, and I can't remember the name of the program, but Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland and her staff helped us through that process. We weren't successful with the grant that we submitted, but that doesn't mean we're not going to continue to try, because transportation funding is a huge priority for the city, and any dollars that we can receive or go after in order to help out those priorities is something that's going to make a huge impact here in our community.
And just good job, you know, anytime you go after grant funds, it is the crapshoot, and the good work that the staff does, you know, is you've got language already that's canned, you know, it's a much easier thing to do the next time around. So, you know, as long as I just really want to make sure that we're positioning ourselves in the space where, you know, we're not expending a bunch of dollars up front and then lengthening this out where we're not going to receive those match dollars.
To add to what City Manager Knighton said, the question I heard is that what's our odds? And I could say the odds, if you don't do a plan, you won't get any funding.
Right.
The other thing to keep in your back pocket when those customers come in, Mayor Dorsey and Councilmember Nisco, is that recall the city was successful in getting some safe routes to school funding that we'll find out in June, that puts a flashing beacon at I believe it's 9th and Railroad, the direct access to Evergreen Elementary.
Oh, yeah.
And then with Danette Brannon's help, she's the former general manager for Mason Transit. We got funding for one at 7th and Franklin there, right by the church. And then with Robert Heron's help, and this goes to your comment, Councilman, we got funding for a flashing beacon at the crosswalk by the track between the Huff and Puff and the track. So anyway, there is funding available out there for those types of things, but it's hard work. And I appreciate you mentioning that, Megan or Councilman Fez. It's a lot of work because every city engineer in the state of Washington is going for the same funds that we're going for too. So,
Well, you're better at it, Ken. Kathy, do you have something?
I have a question.
Yeah,
So let's do a clean sweep of the whole city and find out where we need to remove a few stop signs that are kind of should not be there. I'm thinking down here and at the end of the Civic Building. That's a safety issue. There's 2 stop signs there. Is that a simple fix as just go through the city and find out where stop signs need to go and be taken out?
we could certainly do that as part of this study and
Yeah.
look at that. Would there be any safety improvements by removing signage? One of the projects that I showed you was for the city of Kent, and they put them on a road diet. And part of a road diet is getting rid of signage that no one looks at.
Oh, awesome. Well, there's down here on the end of the Civic Building on Grove and 5th. Take a gander at that one.
Okay, you betcha.
Yeah.
all right, anyone else? We move on. We'll move on to our general public comment. I want to remind the citizens that you have 3 minutes to make your comment. Donna, do we have anybody interested in making a comment tonight?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, all right, let's move on. Let's see. All right. Move on to the business. The only business item this evening is a Social Security vote. Administrative Services Director Michelle Sutherland has more information for us.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Currently, the city of Shelton is not a Social Security covered employee. What that means is that employees aren't extended the benefits of the federal old age and survivors insurance system, so they don't contribute into Social Security. We do have many staff that have contributed into the system in the past and would like to pursue a referendum to continue the benefit while employed at the city of Shelton. So the city would like to offer a referendum per RCW for PERS, PSERS, and LEF employees to determine if those units would like to have Social Security coverage. Currently, Medicare is the only portion that city employees are eligible for. So we'll be providing further information to all city staff at our all hands meeting in June. Both DRS and Social Security will be there to do informational presentations with the vote occurring in August. So did anyone have any questions?
Do we have any public comment here, Donna?
Let me take a look, Mr. Mayor. No, we don't.
All right. Do we have a motion to move this forward? Anyone?
I move that
that resolution number 1196-0421, 11. I just lost it. 1197-0421 and 1198-0421 be forwarded to the action agenda for May 18th council meeting for further consideration.
second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second, is there any discussion?
Just one question. This is probably silly.
Go
They
ahead.
don't get entitled to both, correct? It's just one or the other.
No, employees can be entitled to both per RCW. If you pay into the retirement system and also pay into Social Security, you are eligible for both.
Okay, so is it their share that goes into Social Security or city as well? Like an employer pays a share and then the employee pays a share?
That is correct, yes.
So is this, and the city would be paying into their federal fund and to the Social Security fund? I mean, would the amount increase?
Well, currently we have a 6.2% match that the city does pay employees in lieu of contributing to the Social Security system. So in essence, what this would do is lower that amount, and a majority of the 6.2% would be paid into Social Security.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second that resolution number 1196-0421, 1197-0421, and 1198-0421 be forwarded to the action agenda on May 18th council meeting for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Move on to the action agenda. The first item on the action agenda is a interlocal agreement for the Shelton Skate Park. Community Development Director Mark Ziegler has details for us.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Nothing has changed since our brief 2 weeks ago. This is an interlocal agreement between the city of Shelton, Shelton School District, and Mason County for maintenance operation of the Shelton Skate Park. And it's simply a change from an MOU, memorandum of understanding, to an interlocal agreement.
All right. Public comment, Donna?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Do we have a motion, please?
I move
I
to
move-
approve the Shelton Skate Park interlocal agreement with Mason County and the Shelton School District, and authorize the city manager to sign on behalf of the city.
Second.
Okay. Any of the council members have any questions or comments for Mark?
I do.
All right.
This week, I had a gentleman with quite a concern about the skateboard park. And he is concerned about the safety up there. So I just want to, bring that out, and maybe we can discuss some things about that. I'm not sure what we'll do, but I think it does need to be brought forward a little bit and discussed.
Do we have current safety reports and issues happening right now?
We're
Well,
talking
just,
about- Excuse me.
Pretty general.
just general things that people are saying that's going on up there.
So you're not talking about accidents as much as you.
No accident.
Activities.
So Kathy, I'm going to say this, and I think that we need to be really thoughtful as a council here and as a community. I think that we need to be real thoughtful about how we profile our citizens. I'm just going to
Sure.
say it right now.
Sure, I totally agree with that, Megan. I just wanted to bring this forward and make the council aware of it.
Yeah, so I think that if there are any safety concerns at all, Chief Beeson can make a couple of comments, and we'll definitely be paying attention to that in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Hey,
Jeff.
Jeff, to that point, before this meeting started, I did some research on calls for service that we've had involving the skate park. There was a call last week. Someone called in about someone they thought was armed with a pistol. Officers responded out there and they did not find anybody that was armed. So we are going to make frequent stops around the skate park as time permits, just to see what kind of activity is going on there. But as was mentioned earlier, if folks are making allegations about crimes occurring there, they need to be very specific about who's involved, what kind of weapons are involved, whether there are threats involved, so that we make sure that we are holding people accountable, but being very specific in who is being held accountable and for what behaviors.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Are we okay? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the Shelton Skate Park interlocal agreement with Mason County and the Shelton School District, and authorize the city manager to sign on the behalf of the city. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we have an MOU with SC Johnson. City Manager Jeff Knighton has the details for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. Tonight, I present to you a memorandum of understanding with SC Johnson. With the help of Commissioner Schutte at the county, we were introduced to representatives from SC Johnson, including Tom Gurr, who's here with us this evening, and Heather Berlinski, who is also here with us this evening. And they'll give you a short presentation here in a moment. But what this is aimed at is a pilot program to recycle plastic film. And we thought it was a good idea to try that out in our community. And there are no obligations for the city other than helping to promote the program. And we'll see what kind of analytics and metrics we get back out of that program. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tom and Heather, and they can give us their presentation.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. And thank you, City Council and Mayor, for the opportunity to visit with you guys. Tom Gurr, as Jeff mentioned, I'm a regional public affairs consultant. I've been working with Commissioner Schutte, as Jeff described, for some time now on a potential program in Mason County or in the area. We are part of a national network with SC Johnson, where we are exploring these programs around the country. And here in Washington, we've had one successful program in Point Roberts last year. We've had a couple also happen on the East Coast, and then began exploring the possibility here with you folks. And really, it's a great opportunity, as Jeff said, to sort of find ways to increase recycling of plastic film, explore how we can do better. And SC Johnson, it really will have the opportunity to put you on a big platform and talk about what's been accomplished with your city and how you've been sort of part of the cutting edge. I think it's a great opportunity. And so that's why Heather and I are here tonight, to chat with you guys a little bit about that. I'll let Heather kind of go into some of the specifics, and we'll take some questions after that. So Heather, if you'd like to go ahead.
You're muted, Heather.
Is that better?
Yeah, better.
Perfect. Good evening, council members. Thanks for the opportunity to present this evening. We do have a short presentation that I believe you may have received in advance, but I will share my screen and pop that up. And all right, are you able to see that? Perfect. So this just goes into specifics about the program. As Tom and Jeff indicated, we've been working collaboratively with the city and the county to explore an opportunity for a pilot program to help advance recycling opportunities for film. As Tom mentioned, we started this initiative several years ago, and it's a nationwide initiative that our company has spearheaded, and it really stems around this issue that plastic film is a widely used material type. However, the recycling participation rates in which that material is recycled is woefully low when you compare that to other types of materials. Estimates indicate there's only about 4% of film that is recycled through the existing recycling collection methods, which is commonly retail store take-back programs. And despite being about 18,000 of those programs throughout the country, we've been part of studies that have funded how much material is collected via those methods, and it hovers around about 4%. So as a result, about 96% of this material is ending up in the landfill. And we'd like to change that effort. There have been successful advancements for film recycling initiatives in other countries, in Canada, in Europe. And so that's what our effort is aimed at doing, is starting to spur some of that investment and development here in the United States. So that's what the pilot partnership is designed to do, is really look at how we can optimize a collection program for film to encourage more participation by residents and really help feed that circular economy lesson for film. So we're actively sponsoring programs with municipalities throughout the United States. We also have several initiatives where we're funding investments in sortation equipment for material recovery facilities to successfully sort film within a single stream system. And we've also got a lot of projects that we're working on where we're helping to foster and develop and market opportunities for film. And again, this is just the vision of having a more circular role for film, that a package is on the market, it's recycled successfully by residents, it goes to a recycling processor and gets pelletized into plastic resin that can then be reutilized to make new packaging or durable goods that go back into the market. And this is a slide just showcasing some of our existing film curbside recycling programs that are currently operational, that we have helped through partnerships with municipalities. As Tom mentioned, we do have an existing successful program that we partnered in Point Roberts, Washington. That program has been in existence for over a year, and it's been very successful. The residents have really taken to the program, and the community has continued their program since our initial start of the program back in January of 2020. And this is just a summary showcasing some of the details that we've worked through with Jeff and with the county on how we would structure a program within the city of Shelton. The current design is to utilize a dedicated curbside bin that will be branded with the city of Shelton, and it will be messaged that it is for film material only, so that residents have that constant reminder of what that bin is designed to collect. Those bins will be distributed via Waste Connections, which will do it via an opt-in program that residents will be communicated in advance about the existence of the program and asked to opt in if they would like to participate. And once they opt into the program, they'll receive this dedicated bin, and there will then be a monthly frequency pickup for those residents along those routes. And throughout the duration of the program, we'll be evaluating the participation of the residents who opt in, how much material is collected, whether they successfully are following the instructions and including the right materials. And again, we have developed programs like this with other communities, so we know what messaging works, and our other programs have been really successful in being able to ensure that residents accurately know what material types can be collected and what material should not be included in the program. And happy to answer questions by members. We're just really excited to kick off this initiative and have Shelton join us as part of this effort.
All right. Thank you very much.
Is this just basically plastic grocery bags and like bread wrappers, or is this just like the big plastic that goes over like a case of water?
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. The program is designed to accept all single layer plastic film. So that includes the common grocery bag that you refer to. It also includes items like case wrap, which is what we would call the material type that gets wrapped around a package of bottled water or a package of toilet paper or paper towel. It also includes bubble wrap or some of those air envelopes that you commonly see in retail, mail shipping, e-commerce shipping material types. But that's part of the messaging that we do with the program for the residents is they're given postcards in advance, which really showcase the types of materials that can be collected and give visual examples of what can be collected. It includes those examples of the case wrap and e-commerce packaging and what should not be collected as well.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Deidre?
Now, does this also include, we talked about residential, but does that also include businesses and folks who are within the same service area? Are they able to utilize those same resources?
Yeah, so the program right now is geared at that residential curbside collection.
Okay.
We have, when we've stood up programs with other communities, and that's something that we can talk with Jeff about, commonly there's also an opportunity for residents to do drop off of film at some location, either within the county or the city. So that would be an opportunity for businesses or other residents that don't have the curbside collection to still participate in the program. But at this time, there's not a component to roll out the program for collection at businesses. And as you know, existing municipal, well, not municipal, but existing waste collection services commonly have agreements where they work with industrial clients. So many times there is access to businesses to add on this type of collection service, but it's certainly an opportunity for growth if the program is successful and you're looking for an opportunity to expand collection. That's definitely something to look at and something that other communities have done as well.
And would that also extend to things like apartment buildings?
Yeah, certainly. We've discussed the concept of how this gets coordinated with apartment buildings, and it really comes down to how your service works right now with apartment buildings. So if they have a dedicated bin that is commingled with certain apartments, we could definitely ensure that they also receive a coordinated bin for this type of program as well.
Thank you, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that cellophane that they wrap around pallets is part of your program, I tell you, I can give you a lot of that every week.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I'd caveat is when we use the word cellophane, we just need to make sure that it's that stretchy film material and not cellophane, which may not be classified as a film material. So
yeah,
as long as it, yeah, so it's saran wrap is more of a terminology that would fit within the program, but it has to be stretchy in order for it to qualify within the recyclability classification.
I think it is.
Yep, I think it is too.
Yep.
Just a
All
quick
right.
question. Yeah, you had mentioned a couple different times, if the program is successful. So what does that mean? How do we know if we're successful other than just participation? What are you guys looking at?
Yeah, so there's built into the program that we're going to do a check-in at about 3 months to understand whether residents are actively participating in the program. We want to see that we have a high participation rate. I mean, it's not going to be worth the time to have the material collected if we don't have a lot of residents that are really interested in the program. So that's a key indicator for us. And then the other indicator is how much of the material is collected through that program, kind of the quantity that each household then generates through the program. So those are really the two metrics that we're going to be looking at. But as Jeff indicated, there's no commitment on the city to continue the program with the agreement as it stands now. So it's really up to the city and determining whether it's a good fit for the community to understand how residents receive the program.
my last question is ultimately, where does the material that you're going to be collecting for this pilot end up being processed?
Yeah, so with our other partnership that we have in this region, we've brought in an end market partner that has been working with us, and they're reprocessing film recycler. So that slide where I showcased that you can turn film back into pellets, that's the end market that's utilized within this region. And we've been able to continue that partnership, and they're willing to partner on this program as well. So there is an automatic end market that we are bringing to the partnership to ensure that it does get recycled and does go back into that circular loop.
All right. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Heather and Tom.
You are welcome.
Donna, has anybody signed up for public comment on this?
No, there isn't, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the MOU and direct the city manager to sign the agreement.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the MOU and direct the city manager to sign the agreement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right. Let's move on. Mr. Knighton, you give us your city manager report, please.
I will, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. Thank you to Tom and Heather, and I will be in touch tomorrow, more than likely. On to the report. Got a couple things to mention. First, if you don't, or if you aren't aware, this week is Municipal Clerks Week. And I do want to recognize our clerk, Donna Nault, for all the help that she gives me and keeping all of us out of trouble, especially me. So we wouldn't be able to run these meetings and get most things done if we didn't have Donna here herding chickens, of which I am one.
And she makes us cookies and brownies.
I was going to say, I don't know what she does, but she makes good brownies.
Secondly, I wanted to mention we are having the Fill the Public Works truck event on May 18th, and those trucks will be located at the Uptown Our Community Credit Union and at 7th and Railroad. They will be there, I believe, from 10 to 3. No, I'm sorry, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Is when those trucks will be located there. And as part of that event and to help the community, we've authorized 2 hours of pay for public works employees if they want to help volunteer. So we are participating in that and encouraging that. So we can help out the community. It's for non-perishable food items and unopened toiletries. And they will be donated to the Saints Pantry and to the Turning Point Survivor Advocacy Center. So that's one event that we have to look forward to. Next, we got our new speed signs, and they were tested over the past couple days, and I believe they were installed today on Arcadia. If they weren't installed today, then they'll be installed tomorrow. Interesting, and I think that's going to help us a lot, especially directing resources where we need to go with actual empirical data points, which is hugely important to use our resources in the most effective way possible. And lastly, we are doing the blanket right-of-way permit, for lack of a better term. We want to encourage business owners and others to get out there and do a little bit of spring cleaning. The city is going to participate as well with the Historical Society building and with Evergreen Square. There are a couple of things we have to keep in mind in order to do that. The biggest one, though, is maintaining ADA compliance with 4 feet of separation. We'll be announcing that relatively soon, and we hope that our partners at the chamber and other organizations, other stakeholders will help us get the word out so that everybody can get out there and hopefully sunshine. We wanted to do this on May 1st and 2nd, but as everybody knows, it was 50 degrees and raining that day, and nobody's going to want to be outside pressure washing in that weather. There are not many people. I wouldn't. And then this weekend coming up is Mother's Day, so probably no one's going to participate in that either. So we moved it to May 15th and 16th, and hopefully we'll get a lot of participation through that event. And makes it easier. You know, you don't have to come down to the city and fill out the paperwork and all that good stuff to get your right-of-way permit to help clean up. So we are trying to help in that regard. And that's pretty much all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I don't see any hands. All right. Does the, thank you, Jeff. Does the council have any new items for discussion? I see no hands there either. All right. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, May 4th.
May 18th.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me fix that right now.
I was using the force on the mayor at that time.
Yeah.
May 18th, 2021 at 6.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with me. This meeting is adjourned at 7:10.